Hello everyone and welcome to Why? A podcast based on answering questions about the things that have changed our world. We will start with a Spanish dictator who changed all of Spain. So I present to you today's question: why is Francisco Franco considered a hero? Francisco Franco was a leader who re-established the monarchy before he died and began democracy in Spain. His decisions made Spain better, the country it is today. A wonderful Spain. A living Spain. Why did we come to that? Before, Spain was not bad, in fact it was at its best moment of growth. It was known as one of the European powers in the 16th and 17th centuries. The empire controlled a large part of America, but in the 18th and 19th centuries, Spain had difficulties maintaining itself above other European countries due to its terrible feudal system and its paralyzing aristocracy. At the end of the 19th century, Spain lost all its colonies, and as a result of this there were 37 attempted coups led by military generals. The screwed economic and political situation that occurred was impossible to recover. Many Spaniards even talked about Spain needing a strong man who would return Spain to the former glory of him as a leader. In 1923, a general called Miguel Primo de Rivera, in order to improve the situation of the country, carried out a coup d'etat to become a leader and achieved his goal. The king made him the leader of Spain. Rivera, it was believed that he was going to help Spain, but it was a failure. Although he approved some reforms, his effort to help the infrastructure ended as a costly failure. His attempt to strengthen the currency by returning it to the gold standard further ruined Spain's economy, causing a demand for value of 50%. Thus, Spain entered one of the most unstable periods in its history. Due to its poorly executed reforms, Rivera faced opposition from the main political movements in Spain. The Republicans and the military no longer supported him. Rivera knew that he could do nothing without the support of the army, so he left his position in 1930. The Spanish government had no choice but to appoint another general for the form of government, but it was a worse failure than with Rivera. While Spain was in decline, the socialists and republicans gained power in almost all the provincial capitals in the general elections, and they stated that the people no longer wanted a monarchy, and on April 14, 1931, Spain lost its royalty. So the new president decreed that the king had to leave Spain, and so King Alfonso XIII abandoned his position and went to Cartagena. Thus this new power focused on bringing new reforms and caused church and state to officially separate. In addition, the Ministry of Defense purged the officer corps and reduced it drastically. Soon Spain began to have greater political turmoil. The government announced new elections on February 16, 1936. The elections were divided into two sides, the left and the right, and it was said, if the right wins the elections, we will have to go directly to war civil. The leftists referred to a political option that advocated political and social change, and the right to those who opposed these changes. The February 16th elections ended with the leftists with slightly more votes than the rightists, but in 6 provinces leftist mobs launched to interfere in the voting. On the night of the 16th, the leftists attacked the prisons and freed the revolutionaries who were detained. Out of fear of being assassinated, the Prime Minister and the entire cabinet abandoned their positions. The President had to make the decision alone, so he had no choice but to give the leftists as winners, known as the Popular Front, and they formed a government under Manuel Azana Diaz. Another terrible mistake: they dismissed the President and replaced him with Manuel Azana at the beginning of April, and they screwed up Spain even more. Spain is going from bad to worse. Will there be at least a little hope for the Spanish? On December 4, 1892, Francisco Franco was born in Madrid. His parents were Nicolas Franco Salgado and Maria del Pilar. Francisco Franco had a very difficult childhood, in which he received both physical and psychological abuse from his father. This developed in him an obsession with demonstrating his courage and bravery, so much so that he even stuck a hot needle in his arm because his sister called him a coward. So Franco lived a childhood under the abuse of his parents and the tricks of his brothers, until he went on to train at the Toledo Infantry Academy, believing that everything was going to change, but he was wrong. Since being a rookie he was a target for the veterans, bothering him and hitting him. In short, Franco got angry and started hitting everyone, thus earning respect. He was transferred to Morocco to be part of a battalion since Spain went to war against the Riffians. Franco demonstrated his bravery by being promoted to brigadier general at the age of 33 and fighting on the front line of battle. He was also considered to have something known as divine luck, since he seemed immune to bullets since no bullet could hit. Known as a captain in 1916, that luck ended when a bullet hit his abdomen, causing him to lose a testicle. Many believed that that shot would finish Franco, but that was not the case, surviving death. He was out of combat for a few months and returned to his unit. He was transported to the reserve and assigned to the Obiera barracks, but in 1920 he had the opportunity to return to Morocco when Spain wanted to create an elite foreign legion and Franco was chosen to help. He returned to Morocco and managed to make the legion the most effective of the entire Spanish army, so Franco at the age of 30 was promoted to lieutenant colonel and put in charge of the entire legion. Before Primo left his position, he commissioned Franco to manage a new military academy to train recruits, during which time Franco began to develop an interest in politics and economics. With the new system after the abandonment of Primo de Rivera that occurred, Franco's military academy was closed in 1931. So he gave a farewell speech to his cadets on July 14, ending with "Viva España" instead of "Long live the Republic." What the new government did caused greater poverty, riots and strikes throughout Spain between 1933 and 1934. Franco, not belonging to any of these movements, was named military commander of the Balearic Islands for his loyalty. And in 1935 he was appointed head of military operations in Morocco. This was his dream since he had joined the army. At this time the confrontation between rightists and leftists took place. With the victory of the leftists and with Manuel Azaña in power, several problems arose that greatly affected Franco. After 3 days with this guy in office, he carried out several radical changes in the army. He eliminated the commanders by removing them from Madrid, and Franco dropped in rank, becoming military commander of the distant Canary Islands. Franco thought about asking for a discharge, but thought that if he maintained a rank he could rise even higher in a position more appropriate for him. A good decision. Franco met with several generals to carry out a military revolt. Manuel Azaña did not know about the revolt, but he began to investigate Franco due to suspicions he had about him. His cell phone was tapped and his email was opened, which is why Franco held conversations with them by a personal messenger. A lieutenant named José Castillo was murdered on July 12. This caused the leftist police to begin to take action on the matter. They kidnapped a deputy named José Calvo Sotelo and shot him. All this gave Franco and the military more reasons to act as soon as possible. He put his family on a German ship and sent them to France. And then he flew to Morocco. He arrived in Tétouan on July 19, and there he assumed command of all Moroccan forces, preparing them for a civil war. Spain was divided into two parts: the nationalists, who were those who supported Franco, and the Republicans. The Republicans blockaded Morocco, which made it impossible for Franco to transfer his forces to Spain by sea. So he decided to transport his forces by plane. But they were not enough, so he asked for help from Rome, which at that time was governed by Benito Mussolini, and from Berlin, which was governed by Adolf Hitler. Both accepted for the benefit of the Second World War and for having a new ally. In September the naval blockade ended and Franco managed to transport 21,000 men and more than 771 pounds of weapons and supplies to Spain by air. Franco began to work first securing the border with Portugal, since they had helped the nationalist cause with logistical support. Then he began an advance towards Madrid. The Republicans managed to assassinate about 51,000 executions and the nationalists carried out about 45,000. The nationalists approached 120 kilometers from Madrid on September 3 and increased their murders, and the Republicans began to feel that they were going to be defeated. But they received help from the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin, who ruled at that time, saw the Republicans as allies. So he sent them weapons, advisors, planes, airmen, tanks, tank crews, and volunteer forces. So in Spain there was a big war in September. Francisco Franco, 43 years old, was proclaimed Generalissimo on October 1, 1936. He gave a speech where he promised to raise up Spain that corresponds to its history and its rank in previous times. Soon Franco was known as Caudillo, Soon Serrano became his political advisor and they created a state party called the Traditional Spanish Phalange, although they were inspired by Italian fascism. Franco was cautious about calling his state fascist. The Republicans protected Madrid with Stalin's tanks and weapons, while Franco focused on the northern part of Spain since it was the industrial heart of the country. The offensive was launched on March 31, 1937. Franco's 40,000 soldiers were supported by Italy and Germany with 200 aircraft and more than 200 artillery pieces. They managed to take a large part of Spain and finally attacked Madrid on March 27, 1939. And Franco finally gave victory on April 1. And now the war is over.